Hello, receiving students, receiving teachers, and Sixes. Thank you. You may be seated. I would like us to draw some of the polygons and some of the non-polygons freely drawn on our whiteboard. This was what we learned in our previous lesson. So receiving students, I'd like us to freely draw the polygons and the non-polygons on the blackboard for your case, and our model class will have to draw this on the whiteboard. So Sixes, I'd like volunteers to quickly come up and draw the shape of a polygon, if you know how a polygon looks like, and a non-polygon. So I'd like drawings to be done on the whiteboard. Nilita, can we have you to do the first one? Next one. Who would like to draw me another one? Now, what do we call this type of shape? Okay, it is a square and it comes under polygon or non-polygon. Okay, it is a polygon. Can we have another shape, a non-polygon? Who would like to come up and draw a non-polygon? Helen? Come on, boys. We left two more. Okay, very good. What do we call that type of shape? What do we call that type of shape? Non-polygon. Why? Come on, you should be remembering that from our previous lesson. Victoria. I hope receiving students, you are giving your answers and also drawing your different shapes on the blackboard for your teacher to check.
Because it's an incomplete shape.
Okay, very good. It's a non-polygon because it is an incomplete shape. There is an open here. Polygons have all the sides connected, or it is a closed shape, whereas a non-polygon, it is incomplete. And also, what do we call this type of line? It is a curved line. It is not a straight line. Polygons have straight sides or straight lines. So those were some of the things that we did in our activity in the previous lesson. You were sorting out polygons as polygons and non-polygons. So good that students do still remember those polygons. We will now go into deeper to knowing the properties of regular polygons. Class, our lesson topic for today is basically based on regular polygons. Polygons that have all sides the same, all angles the same. So, having in mind, we are working with regular polygons, trying to find out what are some of the things that we will find from regular shapes. What are the properties, things that make up regular shapes? These are some of the things that we will be working out or trying to figure out from the shapes that we will be using in our activity for today. Polygons have edges. I hope we can still remember from our previous lesson, we were talking about edges. Edges can also be known as sides. In a polygon also, we will come across one of the property which is a vertices, or singular is known as vertex. Plural, vertices or corners of the shapes. So you will also try to work out how many corners are found from the shapes that will be given to you in a short while. One of the properties for polygon also is they have angles. The fourth one that you are going to also work out from the shapes, line of symmetry. I know you have learned this in grade 5. What are the lines of symmetry? How do or where do the lines of symmetries form on a shape or polygon? Then we also have the number of parallel lines. I hope we know what parallel lines are. We will get to doing one learning activity so that you will see where parallel lines come in. Receiving teachers, these are the shapes that you should have prepared for your students to work in their groups as their activities. It should be cut out as many as possible, and they should be using those shapes to work out the properties that will be found from each of those regular polygons. In our learning activity, we have certain questions that we will be answering as a group, and these are the ones that I have on the screen. The first one, you have to work out what is the name of this polygon that will be placed on your desk or that is going to be distributed. 2, how many sides does it have? 3, how many corners can you see from this shape? 4, how many angles can be found from this shape? And number 5, how many lines of symmetry are formed from this shape? So class and receiving students, these are questions, guided questions that will help us find the properties of the different shapes that you will be working on. We will do one as an example, and I'd like everyone to watch very carefully and try to pick out the important parts of these different properties. Okay, every one of us are familiar with the shape that is on the screen. Using the shapes that we have and the questions that you will be given, you are to mark on those different shapes the different properties. There will be 5 of the same shape given to you, because according to my table here, I have 5 columns. There are 5 columns that are divided on this table. The first column, you are to work out the number of edges or sides. Second column, you are to work out the number of vertices or corners. Third column, number of angles. Fourth column, number of axes of symmetry. And the fifth column, you are to work out the number of pairs of parallel lines. So we will do the first one as an example so that you know what to do when you are doing your actual activity. Okay, class, looking up now the front, I have the diagram of a sample of what shape? A square. How many sides does this square have? Okay, very good. There are 4 sides. I have marked them out here. There are 4 sides to this square. So when you are marking the sides, you should now know where to mark the sides of the shape. Let's move on to the second column. Number of corners. How many corners do I have from this shape? Class? Okay, there are also 4 corners. As you can see, that is being marked 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there are 4 corners to this shape. Third column. Who can tell the class now how many angles can you find in a square? Remember, angles are formed at the vertex. When 2 lines join together at a point, it forms an angle. I know you learned this in your previous lesson. When 2 lines join at a point, it forms an angle. Now, in a square, how many angles are you going to form? We have 4 sides, we have 4 corners. Now, how about the angles? Over? Okay, thank you, Over. He said there are 4 angles. So here we have 1 angle here, another one at the top, that's the 3rd one, and the 4th one at this corner. So there are 4 angles in a square. Lines of symmetry. Just recalling back in your previous grades, I know you were doing some exercise or lessons on lines of symmetry. Who can still remember how many lines of symmetry can we form from this shape? Or let me make it more simple. How many times can we divide this shape to come up with parts? Now, Victoria.
4.
Okay, very good. There are 4 lines of symmetry. Okay, we have 1 coming down, 2 coming from this end to this end or diagonally, 3 and 4. It is been equally divided by the line of symmetry. So there are 4 lines of symmetry on a square. Now we have the last column to complete. Number of pairs of parallel lines. I hope we know what parallel lines are. Parallel lines are lines that go in one direction. They do not meet at the end. They will just continue on and on. This is what it means by parallel lines. Now, how many parallel lines do we have on this shape? Elizabeth? Loud and clear? Let's hear from Elizabeth.
6.
Okay, she says there are 6 parallel lines that we will find from this shape. Thank you very much for your answer. That's a good try. I'm still looking for another answer. Come on, boys. Do we have any answers from you? Over?
4.
4 parallel lines. Do we all agree? Do we all agree? Any more other answers? Okay, he says 4. Elizabeth says 6. Any more other answers? Madhu? 2. Okay, I'm still seeing people putting their hands up. What do we have from that end? Let's have it as the last one. Okay, the same as what Madhu said. Very good. There are 2 lines of parallel that can be found in a square. Okay, I will just clearly show that on the board so that those students who are still confused, okay, we have the square, okay, we have these two lines coming in this direction. These two lines will not meet. They will just continue. That is what we mean by parallel lines. And we have another two lines going up this way. So this is another line of parallel lines, and this one here. So this is what we mean by parallel sides. These two sides, they parallel, or they run against each other. They will not meet at the end. So as these two lines here, or these two sides. So take note when you are trying to work out the parallel lines on those shapes, be very careful on how you are going to put in your little arrows to indicate that these are the lines of, or the parallel sides. These sides are parallel. Make sure you use your ruler to see that one side is running side by side with the other side. Put your hands up if you have followed through to knowing now that the properties, the edges, where it can be found on those different shapes. Okay, when you are doing the activity, you will get to really feel and see where the sides can be shown. So just to confirm what we have gone through using those cutouts, a square has 4 equal sides. It has 4 equal angles. Each angle is a right angle. That is why we form a small square at the corner of the shape. Okay, it has 4 lines of symmetry, and it is a regular shape. And we also said it has 2 lines of parallel sides. Okay, we will now go on into doing our activities in our groups. If you are not sure on what to do, please do not hesitate to ask. If you are still confused on where to locate the different properties of the shapes, you may also ask. So refer to the table that is on the PowerPoint to see the example that has been done on the square. I'd like you now to start working on your activity. I will give you 5 minutes to get those activities done. It shouldn't be difficult. We should be working as a group. Do not expect only one student to work on the activity. You can answer the questions on the activity sheet. Write your answers there. Okay, you can refer to the table that is on the whiteboard. Okay, most groups have at least completed the first 3 columns of the table, and they are about to complete the last 2 columns. But if the groups that have completed the last 2 columns, I would also ask you to come up and show how you have labeled or shown the diagrams that have those different properties on the shapes. So we will now correct the exercise using the chart that I have on the whiteboard. So if you have an equilateral triangle, I'd like you to quickly come up and paste those 5 triangles on the chart and write the number of sides or the number of corners, like what I've done to the square next to the shape itself. So can we have the group that is working on the equilateral triangle to come up now and put your triangles up on the PowerPoint, the whiteboard. Thank you, Uval. Hold on to your triangle. Yeah. The first one. Okay, our friend here is putting up the triangles as to how they have labeled those different properties. Pentagon group, get ready. thank you, group that was working on the equilateral triangle. Later we'll go through the correction together. Let's have the pentagon group to come up and paste all your pentagons under each of those properties. So receiving students, I hope you are also putting up your different shapes to fill in the chart with the different properties that needs to be completed. Okay, Venice's group. Okay, thank you, Venice's group. We will move on to hexagon group. Okay, thank you, Lorraine. Let's now move on to heptagon. Okay. Okay, the other three groups, I hope you have completed also. Octagon. You others sitting down, I'd like you to check through their answers. We were working on different shapes. Not all the shapes were given to one group. So I'd like you to look up on the chart and see and learn for yourself from the chart. Let's have the other two. Nonagon. Decagon ready? Which group is working on decagon? Thank you, Tomorrow. Okay, we are about to complete the chart. Okay, thank you very much to all the groups that have completed the chart. Now I can see that we have actually found the different properties that were or that can be found on those shapes that were given to each of your groups to complete. Okay, we have the chart that has been completed. All the columns have been answered. So, seeing that it's completed, we will go through that together in our next lesson as our correction, so that we can have time again going through each of those properties just to see where it can be located on the shapes. Most groups have actually found those different properties, and they've also indicated with those little signs that need to be placed in the shapes to show the type of properties. So receiving teachers and students, we will go through the chart in our next lesson as our correction. So if you haven't completed the activity, I'd like you to complete that for homework, and we are going to go through that together as correction or recap exercise. We will now move on to our summary point for today. Polygons have edges, vertices, angles, line of symmetry, number of parallel sides. That is our summary point for today. The 5 properties of a polygon. Quickly copy that summary point down. Our key phrase for today's lesson, polygons. To the receiving teacher, our next lesson topic is on tessellation. Materials needed for that lesson are, you would need a chart with the different shapes on. The shapes that we have covered in today's lesson and in our previous lesson, the regular shapes, crayons, colors, markers, glue, sticky tape, and the activity sheet. So those are the materials that you would need. This would be an example of the type of polygon that you should prepare in advance. Make sure it is cut out so that the students can make their own tessellation during that particular lesson. With that, 6 and receiving students, we have come to the end of our lesson. Thank you very much for your participation.